The opinions and views expressed by individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of this network, their group, or other organization they may be involved with.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of Tuesday evening news. Tuesday evening
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Psychedelic Reporters. Oh, that's another voice. For this Tuesday, the 16th, here on NOK Network, episode 211. See, I knew those numbers would go around there somewhere. The video news podcast focused on psychedelic medicine being reported in mainstream media. Shout out to the guys in Dead Ringer from Kirkland Lake, Ontario for the awesome intro track, originally recorded by the Moody Blues with some customized changes for our show. I am joined not by Tara Simpson, she's out. This is Ron McNabb, and he's going to help me produce and be my sub-guest here on the one and only, here on the net or the show. And then I also got the one and only Buffalo Various, who has chosen all of our stories for us. So Ron.
Hello, hobbies, and hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce Buffo right here. And he is the Sonoran desert toad, also known as the Colorado mud toad. And did you know that he emits DMT from his skin? And also, we'd like to, as we've reported in the past, we'd like to remind you that park rangers would like to remind everyone to please don't lick the toad. So no licking toads, folks. No licking toads. Leave Buffo at home.
I'm hoping this guy makes a Bufos soon. But all the pictures we looked at, Bufos is brown.
Right.
Yeah, Bufos is I guess we're in the desert. Maybe their color code changed like a chameleon.
Maybe. I don't know.
We got lizards down here where if they're by something, they're that color, and if they're by another thing, they're that color.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
I like those.
So maybe frogs do the same.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe they do.
Well, this has nothing to do with frogs, but let's jump into the first article on SciPost.org, where it states magic mushroom compound enhances the effectiveness of a common nerve pain medication. This was actually off of an article we had from last week, and we didn't get to do it. So, Ron, you want to start us out?
Yeah, sure.
This is by Eric Dolan. Yeah.
Yes, right there. And the article goes on here to say a recent study published in Communications Biology suggests that a single dose of psilocybin, the active compound found in magic mushrooms, provides lasting relief from nerve pain and boosts the effectiveness of a common pain medication. The findings indicate that psilocybin might reshape how the brain processes pain. This offers a potential new approach for people whose chronic pain does not respond to standard treatments. Chronic pain affects millions of people globally and often severely reduces a person's quality of life. Current medications for nerve pain, known as neuropathic pain, tend to have negative side effects and carry a risk of addiction. In addition, between 30 and 50% of people taking standard nerve pain treatments like gabapentin do not experience sufficient pain relief. And I used to be one of those. I used to be on gabapentin and a whole bunch of other medications. Cannabis helped me, but I did also notice that psilocybin capsules did help with my pain as well. A research team from the University of Reading, University College London, and Compass Pathfinder set out to explore alternative options for chronic pain management. They focused on psilocybin, a classic psychedelic substance known to alter perception and cognition. Previous clinical research suggests that psilocybin provides sustained benefits for mood disorders by reorganizing brain networks and resetting maladaptive patterns of neural connectivity. Chronic pain also involves altered connectivity and structural changes in the brain that develop over time. The authors suspected that psilocybin might help remodel these dysfunctional pain networks by changing their fundamental organization. They designed an experiment to see if the compound could reduce pain on its own. They also wanted to observe if it might improve the performance of gabapentin over an extended period. Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is. To test their ideas, the scientists used 157 adult mice, including both males and females. They induced a chronic pain state using a surgical procedure where they partially cut specific nerves in the hind leg while leaving one intact. This specific physical trauma accurately mimics human nerve injuries from surgery or diabetes and produces similar pain hypersensitivity. After the mice developed a high sensitivity to pain, the researchers injected them with a saline solution or synthetic psilocybin. They used two different dosage levels to evaluate the biological effects. The animals received a standard dose of 1 milligram per kilogram with body weight of the lower dose of 0.3 milligrams per kilogram. Woo! The scientists confirmed the drug reached the brain by observing the specific twitching movement, which acts as a recognized sign of psychedelic experience in rodents. The team assessed pain sensitivity using several specialized behavioral tests. They pressed fine calibrated filaments against the paws of mice to measure sensitivity to static pressure. They also stroked the paws with a paintbrush to test for dynamic pain sensitivity, which mimics a human condition where light touches become painful. In another test, they placed the mice on a cold surface to observe this physical reactions to temperature changes. To ensure the psilocybin was not simply making the mice too sedated to react to pain, the authors tracked their spontaneous behavior. They placed the mice in an open arena and recorded how much they moved and explored. The scientists found no adverse effects on the animals' basic motor skills, general activity levels. This indicates that produced pain response were genuine and not a result of physical impairment. The researchers found that a single dose of psilocybin reduced pain sensitivity in both male and female mice. In male mice, the pain relieving effect lasted up to um hold on, it jumped on me. Oh, lasted up to measured a week. Yeah, were you curious? Um, the compound also reduced signs of physiological stress in animals, as measured by a decrease in their physical stress responses and an increase in body weight. This team also explored whether repeated treatments might be beneficial. They administered the lower dose of psilocybin once a week for 3 consecutive weeks. The scientists noted that this repeated dosing schedule amplified and extended the pain relief compared to a single dose. This indicates that a low dose regimen might sustain the therapeutic benefits over even a longer time frame. To understand how psilocybin exerts these effects, the authors gave some mice a drug called volacerin before administering the psilocybin. Volacerin blocks a specific serotonin receptor in the brain known as serotonin 2A receptor. When this receptor was blocked, the pain relieving effects of psilocybin were substantially reduced. This provides evidence that activating that serotonin 2A receptor is necessary for the drug to reduce nerve pain. Interestingly, the team discovered that injecting psilocybin 30 days before the nerve injury surgery failed to prevent the development of pain hypersensitivity. This suggests that the drug does not work as a protective shield against future pain. Instead, it seems to act by remodeling brain networks that have become dysfunctional. The drug appears to depend on the presence of established maladaptive pain networks to exert its therapeutic effects. The scientists then tested how psilocybin interacts with gabapentin, a standard medication used globally for human nerve pain. They gave mice gabapentin during the acute window of psilocybin's direct pain relieving effects. The combination produced significantly stronger and longer lasting pain relief than the gabapentin alone. This points to a synergetic effect when both drugs are active in the same time. In the secondary test, the authors administered gabapentin 55 days after the initial psilocybin injection. By this time, the direct pain relieving effect of psilocybin completely wore the fuck off. However, the mice had previously received psilocybin and experienced dramatic and sustained pain relief lasting to 96 hours after a gabapentin dose. Mice that had only relieved the saline injection experienced a shorter and weaker response to the gabapentin. The researchers suspect this sustained enhancement and is likely to structural changes in the brain to theorize that psilocybin increases the release of specific growth factors such as brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which help brain cells form new connections. This process of forming new connections might create a biological environment that allows conventional painkillers to work much better. The brain's pain processing networks were fundamentally altered after the psychedelic experience. This is pretty cool, man.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
some people that still take other meds. So if their mushroom trip and their psychedelic experiences enhances those medications, I mean, shit, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's different, right? Everyone's different. While these findings offer hope, there are some limitations to consider. Animal models of pain cannot fully capture the complex emotional and psychological aspects of chronic pain experienced by humans. People should not interpret this study to mean that magic mushrooms will automatically cure their nerve pain. Self medicating with unregulated substances carries risks and is not recommended as a substitute for professional medical care. The study also observed a difference in how long the pain relief lasted between male and female mice. The authors note that a fuller characterization of these potential sex differences is necessary. Additional studies are needed to determine if the extended duration seen in males applies to other types of pain behavior in females. It remains unknown how these biological sex differences might translate to human patients. Further research will need to explore exactly how psilocybin creates these long-lasting changes at a cellular level. The scientists plan to investigate if psilocybin can also enhance the effectiveness of other common pain medications such as morphine and specific antidepressants. Clinical trials in humans will be required to confirm if these drug combinations are safe and effective. If successful, this approach could offer a new way to treat patients living with treatment-resistant nerve pain. The study, psilocybin ameliorates neuropathic pain-like behavior in mice and facilitates gabapentin mediated analgesia. There's a clickable link for that. That study was authored by Tatum Askey, Daniel Allen Ross, Daniel Luzanin, Rena Lazarato, Gary Gilmore, Stephen P. Hunt, Francesco Magnini, Maksud Ahmed, Gary J. Stevens, and Maria Mariu. So yeah, very, very interesting story there.
Yes, I enjoyed it. I'm not a big fan of the whole inject the animal shit, but at the same time, I mean, I still can't. I guess it would be like if I signed up as a gorilla Shih Tzu. You can't compare my results to a human's results.
Right.
We're different models. Yeah.
Right. So you can provide some guidelines. You provide some guidelines, but not the specifics, though. Right.
Right. There's difference. Yeah, our brains are different. Social behaviors. I mean, everything's different.
Right.
So our next article comes out of the beautiful magazine and the .com, hightimes.com. Yep. And this says, inside the exploding market for MDMA gummies, DMT vapes, and gray market psychedelics. And this is written by Dennis Walker. And the quick subtitle here says MDMA gummies, DMT vapes, mushroom chocolate sold in smoke shops halfway around the world long before regulators figured out what legal psychedelics might look like. Any unregulated gray market consumer economy quietly emerged to meet exploding the demands. The key takeaways are the Marengo trial exposed a criminal network to deeply embedded in European organized crime that convicting its leader has done little to disrupt this operation. A macro mafia's campaign of intimidation against lawyers, journalists, and witnesses has so destabilized the Dutch legal system that no attorney will now represent Taghi in his appeal in Netherlands, created the ideal conditions for organized crime to flourish. World-class ports, financial infrastructure, and global connections is now paying the price. That's the key takeaways. I did not think that out of the title.
Right? Neither did I. Psychedelics are more culturally visible and scientifically studied today than at any point in modern history. After 2 decades of clinical investigation into the potential therapeutic uses of psilocybin and MDMA, both substances received breakthrough therapy designations from the FDA for specific mental health indications. Combined with mainstream media coverage and endorsements from major cultural figures, psychedelics have increasingly been reframed as potential tools for mental health treatment, spiritual exploration, and personal development rather than the existential social threat portrayed during the height of the war on drugs. But while institutions, investors, and policymakers debate what a legal psychedelic future might look like, another market has already arrived. Professionally branded mushroom chocolates, DMT vape cartridges, LSD mouth sprays, microdose gummies, and other psychedelic consumer products are now widely circulating through gray market ecosystems around the world. In many places, the products are increasingly visible online and in physical retail environments, despite remaining federally illegal across much of the United States. The result is an emerging psychedelic consumer packaged goods market that looks surprisingly similar to the early days of cannabis commercialization, only moving faster and with even less regulatory clarity. Interesting. The psychedelic gray market is already global. As an example of how widespread these products have become, magic mushrooms and DMT vape products reportedly grew popular enough in parts of Southeast Asia that Malaysian lawmakers moved toward a broad vape ban scheduled for implementation in 2026. There's a quote here: among the most popular vape fluids among youths and teenagers today are magic mushroom flavors, marketed under various brand names with attractive packaging. Malaysian Assemblyman Datuk Maesong Bana told the Star in February 2025. There's another quote. According to a National Poison Center report, three of these fruit flavored vape liquid brands tested contained dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, a psychedelic drug diluted and used in electronic cigarette liquids. Bana continued. The visibility of psychedelic consumer products increasingly extends well beyond North America. While traveling through Athens in late 2025, I encountered multiple smoke shops openly displaying Treehouse branded mushroom gummies and chocolates. A week later, similar products appeared again in a retail kiosk in Naples, Italy. In one case, mushroom gummies were sitting in a promotional display directly outside the storefront. Exactly what compounds are contained in some of these internationally marketed products can be difficult to verify. Industry observers and independent testers have raised concerns that some products marketed as magic mushroom edibles may contain synthetic tryptamine analogs and other psychoactive compounds rather than psilocybin mushrooms themselves. At the same time, products that do appear to contain actual mushrooms remain widely available through online and underground distribution channels.
Social media built the psychedelic CPG economy. Officially, much of the market barely exists. Its practice, social media tells different story. Search psychedelic related hashtags on TikTok and Instagrammy, and the scale of the current market becomes impossible to ignore. Content tied to hashtags like magic mushrooms, tree report, and microdose and accumulated billions of views since TikTok launched in 2016, helping normalize psychedelic aesthetics and products to massive global audiences. Psychedelic candies are popping up all over the place these days. I thoroughly, truly refer to the fruit and consume magic mushrooms and intention to reference says music industry effective mushroom ceremonial advocate Edward Crow. But to each its own, he adds. The tension increasingly defines the psychedelic CPG conversation. For some advocates, psychedelics represent accessibility, cognitive liberty, and the inevitable next phase of mainstream adoptions. Others branded gummies, disposable DMT vapes, and novelty packaging as fundamentally incompatible with substances they believe require stronger safeguards, ceremonial structure, or intentional use. Decriminalization loopholes and legal ambiguity. How do you say that?
Ambiguity. Ambiguity. Ambiguity.
Ambiguity. Um, Despite widespread visibility and psychedelic consumer products remain federally illegal through the most most of the United States. Still, a patchwork of decriminalization measures, state level reforms, religious freedom claims, and legal ambiguity has created enough gray area for underground and semi public markets to flourish. And then there's like a whole big whatever the fuck. And then it says Colorado's Natural Medicine Health Act, for example, decriminalized adult possession and non commercial sharing of several naturally occurring psychedelic compounds, including psilocybin, DMT, mescaline, excluding peyote and iboga. They do have a little graph if you look at the article on the website. Some facilitators and psychedelic organizations argue that products may legally accompany paid educational, ceremonial, or integration services. So as long as the substance themselves are not technically being sold directly. And I came across this of knowing people that do this with their churches as tribal members in their groups, and that's pretty cool. Meanwhile, lesser known research chemicals and psychedelic analogs are increasingly appealing alongside more familiar substances like psilocybin and DMT. Compounds such as 2CB, 3-MMC, and growing catalog of unscheduled analog molecules have become broader underground psychedelic commerce online and in some physical spaces. Manufacturers have also increasingly marketed mushroom gummies and similar products that may contain synthetic psychoactive compounds structurally similar to classic psychedelics rather than naturally occurring psilocybin itself. The lack of consistent labeling standards and federal oversight has created growing concern around ingredient transparency, potency, accuracy, and consumer safety. The idea that government can tell you what you can and can't put in your body is a relatively recent phenomenon, says Hamilton Pharmacopoeia producer and top tree herbs owner Soren Shade on a recent Micropreneur Podcast episode while detailing the evolution of drug prohibition, starting with the 1909 Smoking Opium Exclusive Act through the 1971 Controlled Substances Act, which still forms the basis of modern federal drug policy. Wow.
Right. The rise in psychedelic product testing. As the psychedelic product market has expanded, independent testing and verification services have emerged alongside it. Oakland Hi-Fi established the first psychedelic testing standards with the psilocybin cup in April of 2021, setting the precedent for what is now a wide array of different psychedelic testing cups and competitions. As the mushroom testing industry kicked into high gear with dozens of testing labs and a continuously expanding offering of cups over the last 5 years, many labs have begun adding testing services for a broader portfolio of psychedelic molecules in accordance with the evolving CPG market. There's a quote here: psychedelic product integrity verification groups like Psilosafe help to educate on product labeling and consumer awareness about active ingredients and dosing guidelines, Polly continues. Also, we've been seeing the surprising absence of 4-ACO DMT in products for almost a year now, alongside the rise of other synthesized compounds like 4-ACO MET, DIPT, and others that do not convert into psilocin, but which are becoming increasingly popular. The publication Wired recently covered a brand of 5-MeO DMT vapes engineered by former Apple computer interface designer Bill Atkinson, an advocate for broader psychedelic access and the therapeutic potential of the substance. The rapid expansion of analog compounds has further complicated efforts to regulate or classify psychedelic consumer products under existing drug policy frameworks. And the commercial future of psychedelics arrived early. In many ways, the psychedelic CPG market represents the unintended byproduct of the broader psychedelic renaissance itself. For years, advocates, biotech firms, researchers, and media outlets have promoted psychedelics as transformative tools for mental health treatment and personal healing. But while the medical system moves cautiously through clinical trials and regulatory approval, public curiosity has accelerated much faster. The result is a sprawling underground commercial ecosystem that already resembles a mature consumer industry in many corners of the world. Unlike LSD, during the 1960s, psilocybin mushroom cultivation became radically decentralized after this publication of Psilocybin Magic Mushroom Grower's Guide in 1976 by Terence and Dennis McKenna under pseudonyms. The rise of internet forums like Euroid and the Shroomery later helped spread cultivation knowledge, extraction methods, underground chemistry techniques, and peer-to-peer information sharing globally. Today, psychedelics occupy a dramatically different cultural position than they did during the height of the war on drugs. Public perception has softened, scientific research has accelerated, mainstream curiosity has exploded, and before lawmakers or regulators could fully respond, psychedelic consumer products quietly became a global business. Exactly what happens next? Tighter regulation, broader legalization, aggressive enforcement, and some combination of all three remains unclear. What is clear is that the psychedelic consumer packaged goods market is no longer theoretical, it's already here. And that is true. It is so true.
Yeah, right. Man, what a great article. Great article, man. It's you go to those shops, you see the shops, and you're like, well, I don't know if it's clean, but for years they've been doing and selling some of these in states through this. I've never came across some myself, but at the same time, like they've been out there. That's how they've been getting meds out there, and now it's a global economy in a way after some of these trials, and they're trying to make it that way. It's just my mind still can't grasp it all.
Oh, I know. So, anyways,
it is meditation time.
It is. Oh, yeah, my lines. My lines. Where are we here? It's time to pay some bill, folks. So stay tuned for a word for some of our sponsors. Then we'll return with more articles that Bufo has chosen, making mainstream media news.
Back in 4 minutes and 20 seconds here on the Psychedelic Reporters on NLK Network.
Hey, hi, my name is John Mark, aka Sublimator Warrior, and I would like to welcome you to Smoke Signal in Tyendinaga.
One dab make your whole dome drip sweat. One dab make the homies all dip set.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Ooey, ooey, gooey, that's a sticky dab. Might just have to put this one on Instagram.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Hold it in, feel it in your wrist.
Smoke Signals, Tyendinaga.
Check us out in Tyendinaga. 55 Highway 49 in Tyendinaga. It's on the res, and we're open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week.
coffee.
Advertising space available at NOK. Contact us for a rate sheet at knocknetwork.com. Send us a message on our social media platforms or email us at info@noknetwork.com. Dirty Dave, award-winning cultivator for over 4 decades. Dirty Dave, prized genetics fueled by advanced nutrients, original OG organics.
Everybody must get stoned. Yeah, well, they stone you when you're walking down the street. They stone you when you're trying.
Dirty Dave, award-winning products available at these fine establishments. Ask your shop to carry Dirty Dave. Contact us at dirtiesdoggies@gmail.com.
Now we get back to the show.
And we're back from our medication session live here on Psychedelic Reporters here on NOK Network.
Oh, and we have another sighting. Oh, shit. I think I just ripped a thread somehow. Oh, gosh. Oh, and another set from the realm of medication. So let's get at it.
Great. Here we go. Here's
our next article comes out of neurosciencenews.com. And it has a really cool, article about psilocybin unlocks lost memories in Alzheimer's patients.
great. Summary: an extraordinary clinical case report tracking an octogenarian managing advanced Alzheimer's disease has prompted neuroscientists to reevaluate the boundaries of latent cognitive function within the aging human brain. The report details a Japanese-American woman in her 80s who had experienced severe progressive dementia for a decade and largely communicated in single words. Following the supervised consumption of 5 grams of psilocybin-containing mushrooms, she transitioned through a heavy sweating and unexpected prolonged window of spontaneous speech and coherent memory recall. Over the subsequent weeks, she demonstrated increased alertness, recognized family members, walked more independently, and regained urinary continence. While this isolated event draws historic comparisons to the rapid neural awakenings observed in neurologist Oliver Sacks' 1973 L-DOPA trials, researchers emphasize that the single patient observation does not represent a cure for Alzheimer's disease, but rather acts as a compelling prompt for rigorous, controlled clinical testing. Key facts: the awakenings comparison. The dramatic temporary return of lost cognitive and motor abilities in this patient has drawn direct comparisons to the landmark 1973 book Awakenings. In those historic trials, neurologist Oliver Sacks documented paralyzed Parkinson's patients who suddenly regained fluid movement after receiving the dopamine precursor L-DOPA. Quantifying the baseline deficit. Prior to the psilocybin intervention, the patient had been trapped in a state of severe decade-long cognitive decline. For 5 consecutive years, she was entirely dependent on caregivers for daily living, unable to dress herself, suffering from chronic urinary incontinence, and limited to single-word utterances. The post-psychedelic reemergence, approximately 19 hours after consuming a 5-gram dose of psilocybin-containing mushrooms, the patient spontaneously began speaking in full sentences and recalling distant personal memories. This cognitive lucidity persisted for weeks, allowing her to dress herself, navigate rooms unassisted, and regain full bladder control. The 5-HT2A serotonergic loop. Psilocybin bypasses traditional cognitive pathways by binding directly to the serotonin 5-HT2A receptor. In animal models, activating this specific receptor encourages the rapid growth of dendritic spines, which are the vital microscopic protrusions that allow damaged nerve cells to rebuild connections. Dismantling rigorous network borders. Brain imaging research suggests that psilocybin temporarily breaks down the rigid, segregated boundaries that isolate large-scale brain networks from one another by forcing surviving underutilized neural clusters to communicate in entirely new ways. The drug may make buried abilities accessible for a limited time. The BDNF and anti-inflammatory track. Beyond direct network rewiring, laboratory models indicate that psychedelic compounds stimulate brain-derived neurotropic factor, or BDNF. This vital protein is responsible for maintaining existing nerve connections and combating the chronic brain inflammation that drives Alzheimer's tissue death. Severe warning against self-medication. Senior biologists stressed that this report represents a single, uncontrolled observation, not a verified clinical trial. Psychedelic experiences can be intensely disorienting and frightening for dementia patients, and older adults face severe risks of falls, cardiovascular stress, and dangerous drug interactions. Interesting.
Yeah. So it states magic mushrooms are better known for producing hallucinations and altering sense of reality for creating brain diseases, most associated with them tripping rather than Alzheimer's disease. But a report on an individual patient has prompted scientists to ask whether psilocybin, the psychedelic compound in magic mushrooms, could have unexpected effects on the aging brain. And the report describes changes observed in a Japanese American woman in her 80s with advanced Alzheimer's diseases after she received psilocybin containing mushrooms. Dementia is a broad term for symptoms that affect memory, thinking, and everyday independence. Alzheimer's disease is its most common cause. The woman had experienced progressive decline for a decade. For the previous 5 years, she had largely communicated using single words and relied heavily on others for everyday care. She also had difficulty walking and dressing herself and experienced chronic urinary incompetence. She received 5 grams of psilocybin containing mushrooms. The exact amount of psilocybin is unclear because mushroom potency varies. During the experience, she sweated heavily and entered a prolonged sleep-like state. Around 19 hours later, she began speaking spontaneously and recalling memories from her own life. Over the following days and weeks, caregivers reported that she seemed more alert, recognized family members, walked more independently, began dressing herself, and regained ordinary countenance. 1 month later, she received a second supervised session involving 3 grams of mushrooms and again appeared more expressive and agile. The cases drawn comparisons with neurologist Oliver Sacks' 1973 book Awakenings, which described patients who unexpectedly regained lost abilities after treatment with the Parkinson's drug levodopa, also known as levodopa. The disease and drugs are entirely different. Both raise questions about how function remain hidden with a damaged brain. However, the report does show that psychedelics reverse Alzheimer's disease. It involved one person rather than a controlled clinical trial. Her diagnosis was based on her clinical history rather than confirmed using biomarkers. Biological signs of Alzheimer's disease that can be detected using tests such as brain or analysis of spinal fluid. There was no comparison group and no standardized testing of memory. Thinking before and after treatment, observations were largely based reports from caregivers and family members. Alzheimer's disease involves abnormal proteins, inflammation, damage to connections, brain cells, ultimately the death of neurons or nerve cells. This evidence, the psilocybin reversed these underlying disease processes. The authors suggest that psilocybin may temporarily have altered communications between surviving brain networks, group of brain regions that work together. This could have made some abilities more accessible from a limited period. Because the report did not include brain scans, this remains an untested hypothesis. Scientists are interested in the possibility partly because of this brain's ability to adapt. Wow.
Right. For much of the 20th century, scientists believed that the adult brain was relatively fixed. It is now known that the brain can reorganize itself throughout life. New connections can form and networks can change in response to experience. This process, known as neuroplasticity, supports learning, memory, and recovery from injury. It generally becomes less efficient with aging and dementia. Psilocybin acts mainly through a serotonin receptor called 5-HT2A. Serotonin is a chemical messenger involved in mood, perception, and other functions. Receptors are proteins that allow cells to respond to chemical signals. Studies in animals suggest that psilocybin can encourage the formation of dendritic spines, tiny protrusions on nerve cells that help them communicate. Psychedelics may also affect signaling pathways involving brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a protein involved in maintaining nerve cell connections. Brain imaging studies suggest that psilocybin temporarily changes communication between large-scale brain networks. Some networks become less rigidly separated, while familiar patterns of activity are disrupted. Over the past decade, clinical trials have produced promising results in depression, and smaller studies have also examined psilocybin-assisted therapy for anxiety and some forms of addiction. Other research has explored possible anti-inflammatory effects. This is relevant because chronic inflammation is thought to contribute to Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative disorders. conditions in which nerve cells gradually become damaged or die. Laboratory and animal research therefore suggests that psychedelics may influence nerve cell growth, inflammation, and brain network activity. Whether these effects occur in people with Alzheimer's remains unknown. Separate research at the University of California, Berkeley is examining how psilocybin affects cognitively healthy adults aged 60 to 85. The study is not testing a dementia treatment. Participants will receive synthetic psilocybin and undergo brain scans and tests of memory and thinking. There are important reasons for caution. Psilocybin is not risk-free. Psychedelic experiences can be frightening and disorienting, particularly for vulnerable people. Older adults may face increased risks of falls, heart and circulation problems in interactions with medications. The woman experienced heavy sweating, suspected high body temperature, and a prolonged sleep-like state. The absence of lasting complications does not establish that the approach is safe. It would be dangerous to interpret the report as a reason to experiment with psychedelic mushrooms outside a closely supervised research or clinical setting, and the case raises a possibility. Even after years of severe cognitive decline, some abilities may remain temporarily accessible. Whether psilocybin played a direct role, how it might have done so, and whether similar effects could be reproduced in other people remain unknown. Answering those questions will require control research. I don't know if you want to go through these questions that are here or not. Well, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, it was getting loud here. If they want to go to the key questions, I think we can get to that. On that, we covered a lot of the stuff that was answered and
right
already in the article. But yeah, go to neuroscience.com if you want to read the question thingies and whatnot. Yeah.
There you go. Right on. So,
yeah.
So our next one.
Yeah, I think this the UK one we could squeeze in here.
That's this one. Great.
Yeah, the next one it would be the chroniclelive.co.uk. And they state that new trials of magic mushrooms, drug for mental health patients, to launch in Newcastle. And psychedelic drugs are being trialed in a medical environment to support people with mood disorders by Sam Volpe.
Right on. And the story goes on here to say a top Northeast medic is highlighting the exciting clinical trial opportunities for those with serious depression, including through the use of psychedelic drugs. Dr. Murad Waba told Chronicle Live how trials of substances such as a synthetic form of psilocybin, which is known as the psychoactive compound in so-called magic mushrooms, had huge potential as treatments. Dr. Waba, a consultant at the Cumbria Northumberland Tyne and Wear NHS Trust Cape Clinic, said that the trials had so far proven to be life-changing. He spoke at length of how trials, including one called Comp 006, had seen breakthroughs in treatment for patients who had previously struggled to find anything that worked for them. CAPE, which stands for Care Pathway Enhancement, specializes in bridging gaps and helping adults with a mood disorder to receive experimental treatments and get involved in research. It is based at the Northern Center for Mood Disorders. Dr. Waba added, the great thing about our clinic is that it is patient-facing. People can self-refer. Anyone can call in from the street and they would be triaged for assessment. They need to have a mood disorder. They need to be in a depressive episode and need a safe, need to be safe to be managed in primary care. They come in, we do an assessment, and we take them through recommendations. One of those recommendations would be clinical trials.
Yeah, so he explained that while psychedelic treatments were not for everyone, they could have powerful in many cases. He said a psychedelic experience is a very strong-minded, altering space to be in. That way, the brain process information changes significantly under the effect of psychedelics. The brain is used to take in sensory information and making a narrative of who you are, information about who you in space and the world around you. Psychedelics disrupt this mechanism. Dr. Waba emphasized that while someone may have a challenging experience, they would be supported by trained staff, that the nature of Cape Clinic meant the team were able to ensure that participants were safe, he added. We know that more clinical trials coming on which due is start any day now, that simple which is in discussions about. Preliminary reporting that ongoing trials has been positive. Compass Pathways executive Nikbirna has previously said that there are robust, well-designed, and well-executed trials that involved more than 1,000 people and shown consistent, highly statistically significant results and a clinically meaningful effect. There's a link to the full interview with Dr. Wobble at the clicky linky from the website.
There you go. Right on. Cool story. Cool story.
It is. And that was a good week in psychedelics.
It was. Thank you very much, Bufo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us here on Psychedelic Reporters on NOK Network, and for tuning in to our video podcast on NOK Network's Rumble and YouTube pages, as well as our social media sites.
That's right. We hope you all enjoyed your update on mainstream media coverage of psychedelic medicine advancements from around the globe.
Many thanks to our sponsors and to my joint sub-host Ron McNabb and to Bufo Various for choosing our stories, and to you, our listeners, for joining each week on Psychedelic Tuesday. Let's hear from Dead Ringer again from Kirkland Lake on our way out. Good night.
Good night. Woo.
I'm looking at myself, reflections of my mind. It's just the kind of day to leave myself behind. So gently swaying through the fairyland of love. If you'll just come with me, you'll see the beauty of